We're here with Wesley Tankersley, head coach of the Gilmer Bobcats. You guys you're sitting at 2-0. You've had your win over Fannin, the Rebels, a shutout win, and you're coming off the win over Sonoraville. Now you're sitting at 2-0. Just talk a little bit about being 2-0 as opposed to obviously 0-2 or 1-1.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great start for us, and hopefully it adds momentum as we go into region play. Next 3 games will be our crossover games with the other side of the region, and that'll be, all 3 of them will be big tests for us to see where we are, and you're trying to view these first 5 games for us anyway. I think I'm trying to view those mostly as really trying to get these kids a lot more experience and ready for sub-region, because we've got a tough sub-region. I think every team, in my opinion, has a chance to win it, and it's going to be it's going to be pretty tough. So just trying to get them ready for that and get them the experience they need, and the confidence they need going into it. Hopefully we can keep building on that, coming up with we got Southeast Whitefield, and they're going to be a good challenge for us. I think just talking to people over there in Whitefield County, they feel like that's the best Southeast team they've seen in quite a few years, and they look like a solid football team offensively and defensively. Their lines are good, their running backs and skill players are good, so it's definitely going to be a challenge for us, and be a good test for us to see where we are and what we've got to do going into the sub-region.
Now, obviously, all the games are important, obviously, and the region and sub-region games are a little more so. Talk a little bit about having the crossover game as opposed to a sub-region game, and just obviously you want to win them all, obviously, yeah. You want to win the region ones, but are the sub-region games a little more important?
Oh yeah, I mean the sub-region games are the most important ones because those are the ones that determine whether you can go to the playoffs or not. The next 3 we're having the crossover games don't determine whether you go to the playoffs or not. Now they might determine your seeding if you make it to the playoffs. I know for instance last year we ended up the 4th seed, but the reason we did is because we had lost to Dalton.
Right.
So we were actually, I think, both the same. I think
record-wise,
both the same record-wise and in our sub-region standings. I think we were both the same off the top of my head. I can't remember, but the reason they ended up a 3 seed and we ended up a 4 seed was because they had beaten us early in the year, and we both had the same region record. So that ended up putting us back to a 4 seed. So it can be a big deal for that. But as far as making the playoffs, it really doesn't have any effect on that. It would just have an effect on the seeding that you have if you didn't make the playoffs possibly.
And that's kind of what I thought. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, your first 2 opponents, non-region, non-sub-region, but now Fannin, you shut those guys out 22-0, and it's obviously the big rivalry game. But they look much better against Union, and having 2 weeks. Do you feel better as a team? Now, obviously, you guys had a lot of point penalties. I think it was 19 in the first game, and you dropped that to 7. There was obviously a concentration on that. Have you found over the last 2 weeks, and you're having a young team, have you been able to get to more to focus from that first game to the second game to now this upcoming weekend?
Well, I mean, generally, most coaches will tell you that the most improvement for your team is going to come after the first game and second game, and I think that showed quite a bit Friday. But there's still a lot of room for improvement for us. Felt like there were some situations where we should have gone in and scored some touchdowns and didn't, and had to settle for field goals. Where in these tight games that we're going to be coming up. We need to come away with 7 instead of 3. For instance, there in the first quarter, we went down and scored, and then ended up getting a turnover on the kickoff, and we had the ball in great field position, and we ended up getting no points out of it. So those are some things that are concerning a little bit, and some things we've got to focus on and try to make sure we capitalize on every opportunity that we get. When we have those type situations, because in the close games, those become even more magnified than they were on Friday. And it hurt us a little bit on Friday too. I mean, I think it still left them with a little bit of hope, and
right.
Left them in the ball game a little bit longer than you would have liked. And I told the kids, you got to, when you got the opportunity, you got to score and put the game away, and not let people hang around. We did improve though. The penalties was a big improvement. Offensively, we improved as well. Defensively, we gave up the 2 plays that wasn't too happy about, but other than that, they just had 2 first downs. There's definitely still room for improvement, but we did see a lot of improvement from the first game to the second game. So we just got to keep trying to get that every week over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Now speaking of, obviously the defense played well. You hold your opponent to basically as many first downs as touchdowns. But the 2 touchdowns came on big plays. Mm-hmm. Was there something that was just easily correctable, or was it just, was a guy out of place, or is it something that you feel you have to work on more in the upcoming weeks?
I think it's easily correctable, but it's something we will have to work on. And some of it, we had an injury there at linebacker last week, and one of our starters was out, and we just weren't quite attacking, quickly enough. And on the first one, we had a blitz on, and their fullback was able to kick our guy out, and there was another guy standing there, and the running back just ran right by him, and I don't know if he just didn't see him or what.
Right.
But I think those are things that are correctable. On the other one, we did have a missed tackle on the other one, and there was some holding on that too that wasn't called. But that's neither here nor there. We shouldn't have missed the tackle, and
right.
That's that helped out on the other big play for them. But and those are things that we talk about. It's a game of inches, and it really is. We missed that guy both times by an inch. Mm-hmm. And when you have somebody, and from what I can tell, their head coach told me he was a 100-meter champion in AAA last year. He's a pretty fast kid, and when you got somebody that fast, you can't give them an inch like that. And we obviously did, and that's something we got to make sure we don't let happen this week and the next couple of weeks.
Now, speaking of the injuries, I've heard rumors, but I'd like to know: is there a high school injury report? Is there a something you have to turn in to the GHSA every week? No,
there's nothing that I have to turn in to anybody about injury stuff. I generally just don't talk about it very much, just for the kids' sake, and for game planning sakes, things like that. But there's nothing that I have to turn in to anybody.
Okay. Because we had talked about that, and we just we weren't sure. Obviously, on the college and the pro level they do, but I wasn't sure. I'd heard that there was something like that, but I didn't think there would be, because obviously, like you said, there's high school kids. It's a little different.
Yeah.
You talked about the improvements on the defense as well as the offense. Your starting quarterback, Chris James, he had 12 yards passing in the first game and 216 yards in the second game. Was that something that was a game plan, or did you, obviously it was his first start ever, in the Fanning game, did you go into that game going, we're going to run the ball a little, protect the quarterback, but in his second game against Sonoraville, and I know coaches don't like to say it, but they're not as feared an opponent as you'll be facing in the next few weeks. Did you want to get him more comfortable against?
We threw some passes in that game. He just didn't look very comfortable in the first game. Really didn't. we threw some, and there were a couple of them that were pretty accurate that were covering. I think we ended up getting pass interferences on those, and then there were a couple of other ones where he just didn't look comfortable in the pocket and missed open receivers. And so I think that kind of, as you go on, the more confidence you see out of him, probably the more pass plays you're going to call during the game. And since he just didn't seem that confident and comfortable in the first game, I guess we just really didn't call a lot of pass plays. And plus we were ahead too, and just trying to protect the lead a little bit and run the ball since he wasn't feeling that comfortable. But against Sonoraville, it looked like he was a lot more comfortable in the pocket. He had some early success there, and I think that confidence helped him out the rest of the game, and he threw some really good football.
All right, now speaking of, now we talked a little bit about the passing game. Tyler Bertinelli, he was your guys' leading rusher last year. He had 64 yards versus Fannin, but only 48 against Sonoraville. Yet Johnny Flakes, new starter this year, you said he played a little bit his sophomore year, didn't play last year, was a state champion as a wrestler last year. But he's back, and he rushed for 11 attempts, 145 yards, and 3 TDs. Is it more a factor that Johnny Flakes is having such a good year running the ball that we're not seeing Bertinelli as much, or is it maybe some struggles in the offensive line and whatnot?
Most of it honestly is just because of defense. Especially early on last year. Bert didn't play defense. Then halfway through the year, he starting at linebacker too. So, that's probably most of it is just, trying to get him a little bit of rest, as much as we can on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to defense. That's some of it. His yards per carry have been good. His yards per carry haven't been bad. We just, haven't had as many carries. Hadn't had really anything to do with the offensive line or anything like that. A lot of it's just trying to get him a little bit more rest, especially as we move a little bit longer. I think last year he got pretty doggone banged up towards the end of the year, and we're just trying to keep that from happening as we go into later on in the year, and that'll help him be a little bit stronger towards the end. And he did have some cramping issues in the first game as well, playing both ways. So just those things kind of play into it a little bit. You try to, for us anyway, our focus is going to be making sure that the defense is secured and trying to get some reps and rest on offense for other kids where we can get it.
I'm actually glad that you touched on that, because I noticed you guys have a lot of guys that start both ways. Austin Davis had 5 solo tackles. He starts. Austin Cole as well had 11. Johnny Flakes had 7. I believe that Tyler Bertinelli had like 4 or 5. You have a lot of guys that play and start on both sides of the ball. When you get obviously further in the season and start to face teams that even run the no huddle, is that a concern? Is that something you guys have an eye on when it comes to the depth of your team?
Well, like I say, we try to make sure that for Austin, for instance, Austin Cole, he's starting at tight end and linebacker, but we also have Austin Davis that plays tight end as well. So as much as possible, we try to split time there, with those two, let them play defense the whole time, and try to split as much time as we can on offense to help with that. You talk about Bertinelli and Johnny, it's kind of the same with them. We ran a lot of shotgun stuff the other night where Bertinelli was out of the game, and a lot of that was to get him a little bit of a breather as well. And we've also got we've got really 4 or 5 running backs that we feel comfortable with that can get reps as well. You got Victor Ramirez, and you got Russell Cochran and Chad Watkins when he's in there. So there's a lot more people we feel comfortable with being able to step in and provide a little bit of a breather for those guys, so it's not not as big a deal for them as if they were playing every down, every play. So.
Now, I wanted to ask you this, and we talked about this before, and I think you can tell, like, I have a pretty soft heart pretty soft spot in my heart for wrestling. Mm-hmm. I noticed you guys had 43 tackles total, but only 14 assisted. Is that a product more of guys just being really good tacklers? And like I said, you got your Johnny Flakes, you got your Osicos, you got your Tyler Bertinellis, guys that wrestle, in the off season. Is that more a product of you guys just don't miss tackles, or have you noticed that guys maybe aren't flying to the ball as the way they should be?
I don't think it's the flying to the ball thing. I mean, I think there's sometimes that we may not have as many people there as you want, but the guys have been making pretty good tackles. I mean, only I can think of the 2 plays that they scored the other day are the only real missed tackles that I can really think of. In the first 2 games. A lot of it has been they've tackled pretty well.
Now, I've noticed in your and honestly, obviously it was Brian that noticed in your punt return game, Garrett Rigdon doesn't fair catch at all. He's got that Tim Dwight in him, and obviously you need that fearlessness at the punt return. But are there times where you kind of look and go, man, I really wish you'd fair catch that ball?
Well, I talked to him about it at the end of the game a little bit the other day. I said, cool it a little bit here, and we don't have to, you don't have to be as aggressive with it here. If there's any doubt in your mind, just let it go. Especially late in the game where, we were in pretty good control of it, and you try to make sure that he kind of understands the situation and, when the time might be to take risk and when not to. But, Garrett does a good job with it.
Now, I wanted to ask about the upcoming game, the Southwest Whitefield. Obviously, we talked about it. It's a region game. It's obviously a tougher opponent than Sonoraville. The basic Sonoraville has only scored 2 touchdowns in the season. Talk a little bit about just the focus of the team and I hate to use the word more important game, or honestly a better opponent. Talk a little bit about this focus this week as opposed to last week.
Well, I mean, it's definitely got to be better. There's no doubt about it, and we've got to make sure that we do a good job as coaches, is letting them know, what the opponents is and how good they are, and what their focus has got to be to win the game. Obviously, I've always, really a lot of the games are won Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, especially the close ones, and how you prepare and what you're doing. So we're trying to make sure that they're mentally and physically prepared for the game, and that they get, especially defensively, that they understand, what Southeast likes to do, and how we're going to react to it and play it.
And speaking of that, and this will probably be my last question, obviously, you don't want to give away too much. What are some of the things that, and maybe worry isn't the right, what are some of the things that you guys will be concentrating on that they do?
I mean, they are a lot like us in their mentality. I mean, they're not running wing T, but, they've been a lot in the eye. They're trying to really run the football. And that's one thing that we've got to, we're going to have to be physical. We're going to have to stop the run. We're going to have to maintain our gaps on defense. Offensively, we're going to have to take advantage of big plays when we can get them, and move the ball methodically, and just kind of play our game. But the biggest thing is just it's going to be, I think it's going to be a very physical game, because that's kind of what they're trying to do now, and we're going to have to stop that. And once we do that, we're going to have to really do a good job on play action and tackling. I think tackling is going to be a big deal this week, making sure that we tackle good again.
All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Not a problem, man. Appreciate you. Oh.